Welcome, aspiring English speakers. Are you ready to embark on an exciting journey that will transform your language learning experience? In this comprehensive guide, we're going to explore a powerful technique that can dramatically improve your English skills. Learning without translation. You might be wondering, is this even possible? How can I understand English without translating it into my native language? Don't worry. By the end of this guide, not only will you understand how it's possible, but you'll also be eager to try it out yourself. We'll dive deep into 10 key benefits of this approach, sharing real-life stories, practical exercises, and expert tips along the way. So, grab a cup of tea or coffee, if that's your preference. Get comfortable, and let's begin this transformative journey together. What does learning without translation mean? Before we jump into the benefits, let's clarify what we mean by learning without translation. When you first start learning English, it's natural to want to translate everything into your native language. You hear or read an English word, and your brain immediately searches for its equivalent in your mother tongue. For example, if you're a Spanish speaker and you hear dog, your mind might automatically think perro. This method can be helpful when you're just starting out, but as you progress, it can actually slow down your learning and hinder your fluency. Learning without translation means training your brain to connect English words directly to concepts, ideas, and images, bypassing the step of translating to your native language. Instead of thinking dog, perro, mental image of a dog, you aim to go straight from dog, mental image of a dog. This approach might feel challenging at first, but don't worry. We'll show you how to ease into it gradually. Now let's explore the incredible benefits of this method, complete with real-life examples and practical exercises to help you along the way. 1. Improved thinking in English. When you stop translating, you start thinking directly in English. This is a huge step towards achieving fluency. Real-life example: Alex's ordering adventure. Alex, a Brazilian student in New York, used to struggle when ordering food. He would translate the menu items in his head, then translate his order back into English before speaking. This process was slow and often led to mistakes. One day, Alex challenged himself to order without translating. He looked at a picture of a cheeseburger on the menu and thought about the item itself, not the Portuguese word for it. When the waiter came, Alex confidently said, "I'd like a cheeseburger, please." It felt natural, and he didn't stumble over his words. From that day on, Alex practiced thinking about objects and concepts directly in English, and his speaking became much more fluent. How it works. When you think directly in English, you're building neural pathways that connect English words directly to concepts and ideas. This speeds up your language processing and helps you respond more naturally in conversations. Practical exercise: the Daily Object Challenge. Try this exercise to start thinking in English. 1. Choose 5 objects you see every day, e.g., coffee mug, phone, chair, book, pen. 2. For 1 week, every time you see or use these objects, think of their English names. 3. Don't just think of the word, but try to form a simple English sentence about the object. For example, when you see your coffee mug, think, "I need coffee," or "This mug is blue." 4. By the end of the week, you should be able to think of these objects in English without translating. Expert tip: Dr. Emma Johnson, a linguistics professor at Oxford University, says, The key to thinking in English is consistency. Make it a habit to narrate your daily activities in English, even if it's just in your head. This constant practice will gradually rewire your brain to process English more naturally. Another example, Sarah's dream diary. Sarah, a French student, always had vivid dreams but struggled to describe them in English. She would try to remember her dreams in French and then translate them, but the process was frustrating, and the translations often didn't capture the essence of her dreams. She decided to try something different. Every morning, as soon as she woke up, she would grab her English dream diary and write about her dream directly in English, without allowing herself to think in French first. At the beginning, her entries were simple. I in big house, many rooms, looking for someone. It was challenging, and she often couldn't find the right words. But she persisted. After a month, she noticed a significant improvement. I found myself in an enormous mansion. The hallway seemed endless, and each room I entered was more bizarre than the last. I was searching for someone, though I couldn't remember who. The atmosphere was eerie, yet I felt compelled to continue my search. Not only had her English improved, but she also found that she could recall her dreams more vividly when thinking about them directly in English. The science behind it. Studies in neurolinguistics have shown that thinking in a second language activates different areas of the brain compared to thinking in one's native language. By practicing thinking directly in English, you're strengthening these neural pathways, making English processing more efficient over time. Challenge yourself. Set a Think in English timer for 5 minutes each day. During this time, try to think exclusively in English. Describe what you see around you, plan your day, or even have an imaginary conversation. At first, it might feel slow and you might have many gaps, but with practice, it will become easier and more natural. 2. Better understanding of context. Words often have multiple meanings or uses that don't translate directly. Learning words in context helps you understand their true usage. Real-life example, Yuki's cool discovery. Yuki, a Japanese student, was confused when her American friend said, "That's so cool," about a movie they just watched. Yuki knew cool meant a bit cold in temperature, so the sentence didn't make sense to her when she translated it. Instead of asking for a translation, Yuki decided to pay attention to when and how people used cool in different situations. She noticed people used it when they liked something or thought it was impressive. By learning the word in context, Yuki understood that cool has multiple meanings, and she started using it correctly in her own conversations. The power of context. Understanding words in context is crucial because 1. Many English words have multiple meanings. 2. The meaning of a word can change depending on how it's used in a sentence. 3. Idiomatic expressions often can't be understood through direct translation. Practical exercise. 1. Choose an English book, article, or TV show with subtitles. 2. Pick 5 words or phrases you're not familiar with. 3. Instead of looking them up, write down the sentence they're used in and try to guess the meaning from the context. 4. Keep a context journal where you note down these words and your guesses. 5. After a week, review your guesses and look up the actual meanings. You might be surprised at how many you got right. Expert insight. Dr. Michael Lee, a professor of applied linguistics at the University of Sydney, explains, "Context is king in language learning. A word's true meaning often lies not in its dictionary definition, but in how it's used in real-life situations. By focusing on context, learners can grasp nuances that direct translation often misses. Another example, Pedro's raining cats and dogs. Pedro, a Spanish speaker living in London, was walking with his English colleague when it started to rain heavily. His colleague exclaimed, "Oh no, it's raining cats and dogs." Pedro was bewildered. He looked up at the sky, half expecting to see pets falling from the clouds. His colleague noticed his confusion and explained that it was just an expression meaning it's raining very heavily. Intrigued by this, Pedro started paying more attention to English expressions. He noticed that weather often featured in idiomatic phrases. It's raining cats and dogs, raining heavily, under the weather, feeling ill, a storm in a teacup, a lot of fuss about something minor. Every cloud has a silver lining. There's always something positive in a negative situation. Pedro realized that trying to translate these phrases word for word into Spanish would make no sense. Instead, he started learning them in context, noting down situations where they were used. This not only improved his understanding, but also made his English sound more natural when he used these expressions himself. The contextual learning method. To master contextual learning, try this approach. 1. Immersion. Surround yourself with English content. Books, movies, podcasts, news articles. Second observation. Pay attention to how words and phrases are used in different situations. Third notation. Keep a journal of new words or phrases and the contexts in which you encountered them. Fourth practice. Try using these new words or phrases in your own sentences, mimicking the contexts you observed. 5. Feedback. Ask native speakers or advanced learners if you're using the words correctly. Challenge yourself. The idiom of the day. Each day, learn a new English idiom. But instead of memorizing its meaning, challenge yourself to use it in 3 different contexts throughout the day. This will help you understand its usage more deeply and remember it more effectively. 3. Faster language processing. When you don't have to translate in your head, you can understand and respond much more quickly. Real-life example, Carlos's job interview. Success. Carlos, a Spanish speaker, had a job interview in English. At first, he tried to translate the interviewer's questions into Spanish, think of his answer in Spanish, and then translate it back to English. This process was slow, and he often missed parts of the next question because he was still translating in his head. Halfway through the interview, Carlos decided to focus on the English words themselves without translating. To his surprise, he found he could understand the questions more quickly and respond more naturally. The interviewer noticed the improvement and complimented Carlos on his English skills. Carlos got the job, and he credits his success partly to stopping the translation process in his mind. The science of language processing. When you translate in your head, you're essentially doing double the work. Your brain has to 1. Hear the English words 2. Translate them to your native language 3. Process the meaning 4. Think of a response in your native language 5. Translate the response back to English 6. Speak the response in English. By eliminating steps 2, 4, and 5, you can dramatically speed up your ability to understand and respond in English. Practical exercise. The 5-second rule. 1. Find a speaking partner or use an English learning app with speaking exercises. 2. When asked a question, challenge yourself to respond within 5 seconds. 3. Don't allow yourself time to translate. Focus on understanding the question in English and responding directly in English. 4. If you don't know a word, use circumlocution, describing the word, rather than translating. Practice this regularly, and you'll find your response time improving. Expert tip. Professor Linda Zhang, a cognitive psychologist specializing in language acquisition, advises speed comes with practice. Start with simple conversations and gradually increase complexity. The key is to push yourself to respond quickly, even if you make mistakes. Over time, your brain will adapt to process English more efficiently. Another example, Fatima's podcast challenge. Fatima, an Arabic speaker, loved listening to English podcasts but often found herself pausing to translate difficult words or phrases. This made the experience frustrating and disrupted the flow of the content. She decided to challenge herself. For 1 month, she would listen to her favorite English podcast every day without pausing or translating. At first, it was difficult. She missed a lot of information and felt lost at times, but she persisted, focusing on understanding the general meaning rather than every single word. To her surprise, by the end of the month, she found she could follow the podcast much more easily. She wasn't catching every word, but she was understanding the overall content without needing to pause or translate. Her listening comprehension had improved significantly, and she found she could process English speech much faster than before. Strategies for faster language processing. 1. Shadowing. Listen to English audio and try to repeat what you hear in real time, mimicking the speaker's intonation and rhythm. 2. Speed listening. Gradually increase the playback speed of English audio content. This trains your brain to process English faster. 3. Rapid reading. Practice speed reading English texts. Start with easier materials and progressively move to more complex ones. 4. Think aloud protocol. As you read or listen to English, verbalize your thoughts about the content in English. This helps connect comprehension directly to English expression. Challenge yourself. The No Translation Day. Choose 1 day a week to be your No Translation Day. On this day, challenge yourself to avoid translating at all costs. If you don't know a word, try to explain it in English or use gestures. If you can't understand something, ask for clarification in English. This immersive practice can significantly boost your language processing speed over time. 4th, more authentic language use. Learning words in context helps you understand idiomatic expressions and natural phrasing. Real-life example. Sophie's idiom, adventure. Sophie, a French student, was watching an English movie when she heard the phrase, "It's raining cats and dogs." She was very confused. She tried to translate it word by word into French, but it made no sense. Why would cats and dogs fall from the sky? Instead of looking up a translation, Sophie decided to pay attention to the scene in the movie. She noticed it was raining very heavily. Over the next few weeks, she heard the phrase again during rainy weather. Sophie realized it was an idiom meaning, "It's raining very hard." By learning the phrase in context, without translating, Sophie was able to start using this and other idioms naturally in her conversations, making her English sound more authentic. The importance of authentic language. Using authentic language is crucial because 1. It helps you sound more natural and native-like. 2. It improves your understanding of cultural nuances. 3. It enables you to express yourself more accurately and effectively. Practical exercise. The Idiom Journal. 1. Start an idiom journal where you write down new idioms or expressions you encounter. 2. For each idiom, note the context in which you heard it, your guess at its meaning, an example sentence using the idiom. 3. Try to use each new idiom in conversation within a week of learning it. 4. Review your journal regularly to reinforce your learning. Expert Insight. Dr. Rachel Green, a sociolinguist at the University of California, Berkeley, explains, authentic language use goes beyond grammar and vocabulary. It's about understanding the cultural context, the subtle nuances, and the unwritten rules of how language is used in real-life situations. Immersing yourself in authentic English content and practicing use in context is the best way to develop this skill. Another example. Marco's Business English Breakthrough. Marco, an Italian businessman, was confident in his English grammar and vocabulary. However, in meetings with English-speaking clients, he often felt that his language didn't quite fit the professional context. He would translate Italian business phrases directly into English, which sometimes led to confusion or amusement among his colleagues. For instance, in one meeting, Marco wanted to suggest discussing a topic in more detail later. He said, "Let's put this argument in the fridge," directly translating an Italian idiom. His colleagues looked puzzled until someone realized he meant, "Let's put this issue on ice." Determined to improve, Marco started paying close attention to how his English-speaking colleagues expressed themselves in meetings. He noticed phrases like, "Let's circle back to this later. We need to touch base on this issue. Can we table this discussion? I'd like to pick your brain about this." Marco realized these phrases couldn't be directly translated to Italian but were crucial for sounding professional and natural in English business contexts. He started noting down these expressions and practicing them in his own meetings. Over time, Marco's business English became much more authentic. His clients and colleagues commented on how natural and professional his English sounded, and he felt much more confident in his communication. Strategies for authentic language use. 1. Collocation. Focus. Pay attention to words that are often used together. For example, we say heavy rain, not strong rain. Second, register awareness. Learn how language changes in different contexts, casual, formal, professional. 3. Filler words and hesitation markers. Learn natural ways to pause or hesitate in English. Well, you know. 4. Intonation and stress. Practice the melody of English speech, which often carries meaning. Challenge yourself. The Authentic Speech Project. Choose a short speech or monologue from a movie, TV show, or public figure you admire. Your task is to learn this speech and deliver it as authentically as possible. Focus not just on the words, but on the intonation, stress, pauses, and even body language. Record yourself and compare it to the original. 5. Enhanced memory, retention. When you associate words with concepts or images rather than translations, you're more likely to remember them long-term. Real-life example. Ahmed's vocabulary boost. Ahmed, an Arabic speaker, used to make long lists of English words with their Arabic translations. He would memorize these lists, but often forgot the words a few days later. Then, Ahmed tried a new approach. Instead of writing translations, he drew simple pictures next to each English word. For apple, he drew a quick sketch of an apple. For run, he drew a stick figure running. When he reviewed his vocabulary, he looked at the English word and the picture, without using any Arabic. To his surprise, Ahmed found he could remember words much better this way. The visual associations stuck in his mind, and he could recall words more easily when speaking or writing. His vocabulary grew quickly, and he felt more confident using new words in conversations. The science of memory and language learning research in cognitive psychology has shown that creating multiple connections to a piece of information in your brain enhances recall. When you learn a word by translation, you're creating only one connection. But when you associate it with an image, a feeling, a situation, or other words in the same language, you're building a network of connections that make the word easier to remember and use. Practical exercise, the Mind Map Vocabulary Builder. 1. Choose a central theme or word, e.g., food. 2. Draw this word in the center of a page and circle it. 3. Around this word, add related words in English, e.g., fruit, vegetable, meat. 4. For each of these words, add more specific items, e.g., under fruit, add apple, banana, orange. 5. Use colors, small drawings, or symbols to represent each word. 6. Review your mind map regularly, focusing on the English words and their associations, not their translations. Expert tip. Dr. Maria Konosova, a neurolinguist at the University of Moscow, advises: engage multiple senses when learning new vocabulary. Say the word aloud, write it down, draw a picture, and use it in a sentence. The more connections you create, the stronger the memory will be. Another example, Liam's mnemonic method. Liam, an Irish student learning Mandarin Chinese, struggled with remembering Chinese characters. Traditional rote memorization wasn't working for him. Then, he discovered a mnemonic technique that didn't rely on English translations. For example, to remember the character mu, which means tree, Liam imagined the character as a pictograph of a tree with branches. For Lin, lean, which means forest, he noticed it was two tree characters side by side, like a small forest. Liam extended this method to more complex characters and vocabulary. He created stories or images that connected to the shape of the character or the sound of the word, without using English as an intermediary. This technique not only improved Liam's character recognition and vocabulary retention, but also helped him think more directly in Chinese. He found that during conversations he could recall words more quickly because he was accessing them through these visual and story-based cues rather than through English translations. Strategies for enhanced memory retention. 1. The keyword method. Associate the sound of the English word with an image that's easy to remember. For example, to remember umbrella, imagine a bella, beautiful in Italian, lady holding an umbrella. 2. Contextual learning. Learn words in phrases or sentences rather than in isolation. The context provides additional cues for memory. 3. Spaced repetition. Review new words at increasing intervals. For example, review a word one day after learning it, then 3 days later, then a week later, and so on. 4. Physical response. Pair words with actions. For verbs, this is straightforward, jump when you learn jump, but you can create actions for nouns and adjectives too. 5. Emotional association. Try to connect words with specific emotions or personal experiences. Words with emotional connections are often easier to remember. Challenge yourself. The Immersive Vocabulary Journal. For 1 month, challenge yourself to learn new vocabulary without using your native language. When you encounter a new word, 1. Write the word in your journal. 2. Draw a simple picture or symbol to represent it. 3. Write a short English definition using words you already know. 4. Use the word in a sentence that's meaningful to you. 5. If possible, add a note about where you encountered the word or a memory associated with it. Review your journal regularly, focusing on the English content and the associations you've created. This method engages multiple aspects of memory and helps you think in English. 6. Improved pronunciation. Learning words directly in English helps you avoid pronunciation influences from your native language. Real-life example. Lena's pronunciation. Breakthrough. Lena, a German speaker, struggled with pronouncing English words correctly. She often applied German pronunciation rules to English words, making her accent very strong. Lena decided to try learning new words by listening to native English speakers and imitating their pronunciation, without thinking about how the words would be said in German. She used English podcasts, movies, and conversation partners to hear how words should sound. After a few weeks, Lena's friends noticed a big improvement in her pronunciation. Words flowed more naturally, and her accent became less noticeable. Lena realized that by avoiding the influence of German pronunciation, she was able to speak English more clearly and confidently. The importance of good pronunciation. While having an accent is perfectly fine, and can even be charming, clear pronunciation is crucial because 1. It improves your overall comprehensibility. 2. It helps prevent misunderstandings. 3. It boosts your confidence in speaking English. 4. It can help native speakers feel more comfortable conversing with you. Practical exercise. The mirror talk. 1. Choose a short English text, a paragraph or dialogue. 2. Read it aloud while looking in a mirror, paying attention to your mouth movements. 3. Watch videos of native English speakers saying the same words. Compare their mouth movements to yours. 4th. Practice imitating the native speaker's mouth movements and sounds. 5. Record yourself and compare it to the native pronunciation. Expert insight. Professor Jane Setter, a phonetics expert at the University of Reading, explains, English has sounds that don't exist in many other languages. By learning pronunciation directly from English sources, learners can train their ears and mouths to recognize and produce these sounds accurately, without interference from their native language phonology. Another example, Hiroshi's phoneme focus. Hiroshi, a Japanese speaker, found English pronunciation particularly challenging due to the significant differences between Japanese and English phonemes, sound units. He struggled with the L and R sounds, often mixing them up, and had difficulty with consonant clusters, like star in street, which don't exist in Japanese. Instead of trying to equate English sounds to similar Japanese ones, Hiroshi decided to approach English phonemes as entirely new sounds. He found a comprehensive guide to English phonemes and practiced each sound in isolation, without referring to Japanese. Hiroshi used various techniques. 1. Minimal pairs. He practiced words that differ by only one sound, like light and right, play and pray. 2. Tongue twisters. He used English tongue twisters to practice difficult sound combinations like she sells seashells by the seashore. 3rd. Phonetic transcription. He learned the International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA, for English, which allowed him to see the exact pronunciation of words without being influenced by spelling. Fourth, mouth diagrams. He studied diagrams showing tongue and lip positions for different English sounds and practiced in front of a mirror. By focusing on English phonemes directly, without relating them to Japanese sounds, Hiroshi was able to significantly improve his pronunciation. His English became much clearer and more natural sounding, and he found he could understand native speakers better as well. Strategies for improving pronunciation. 1. Focus on stress and intonation. English is a stress-timed language, meaning the rhythm is based on stressed syllables. Practice stressing the correct syllables in words and using appropriate intonation in sentences. 2. Use pronunciation apps. There are many apps that can analyze your pronunciation and provide feedback. Some even show you diagrams of proper tongue and lip positions. 3. Listen and repeat. Use podcasts or audiobooks, pausing after each sentence to repeat what you've heard, trying to match the pronunciation exactly. 4. Exaggerate. When practicing, exaggerate the mouth movements and sounds. This helps you feel the differences between similar sounds more clearly. 5. Focus on troublesome sounds. Identify the sounds that are most difficult for speakers of your native language and give these extra attention. Challenge yourself. The Accent Mimicry Project. Choose an English accent you like. Could be British, American, Australian, etc., and commit to mimicking it for a week. Find video clips of people speaking with this accent and practice imitating them. Focus not just on individual sounds, but on the overall rhythm and intonation patterns. This exercise can help you become more aware of the nuances of English pronunciation and improve your overall accent. 7. Cultural understanding. Some concepts are unique to English-speaking cultures and are best understood without translation. Real-life example. Hiroshi's Thanksgiving lesson. Hiroshi, a Japanese exchange student in the United States, was invited to a Thanksgiving dinner. He tried to translate Thanksgiving into Japanese, but realized there wasn't an exact equivalent in his culture. Instead of trying to find a translation, Hiroshi decided to learn about Thanksgiving by experiencing it. He asked his American friends about the holiday's history, participated in Thanksgiving traditions, and enjoyed the special foods associated with the celebration. By immersing himself in the experience without trying to translate everything, Hiroshi gained a deep understanding of this important American holiday. He could explain Thanksgiving to his family back in Japan much better than if he had simply looked up a translation. The role of culture in language. Language and culture are deeply intertwined. Many words, phrases, and concepts in English are rooted in the cultural experiences of English-speaking countries. Understanding these cultural elements can greatly enhance your grasp of the language and your ability to communicate effectively. Practical exercise. The cultural concept map. 1. Choose an English-speaking country, e.g. USA, UK, Australia. 2. Research important cultural concepts, e.g. holidays, social norms, popular sports. 3. Create a mind map or diagram of these concepts using only English words and simple drawings. 4. For each concept, write a short explanation in simple English. 5. Try to connect these concepts to your own experiences or similar concepts in your culture, but express these connections in English. Expert tips. Dr. Claire Kramsch, professor of German and foreign language acquisition at UC Berkeley, advises, to truly understand a language, one must understand the culture it exists in. Engage with authentic materials, news, literature, films from English-speaking countries. Don't just translate the words, but try to understand the cultural context behind them. Another example, Maria's idiom exploration. Maria, a Brazilian student in London, was confused when her British friend said, "I'm chuffed to bits," after getting a good grade. Maria knew all the words individually, but together they made no sense to her. Instead of looking for a Portuguese translation, Maria decided to understand the phrase in its cultural context. She noticed her friend looked very happy, so she guessed it was a positive expression. She started noticing the phrase in other contexts, when people received good news or achieved something. Intrigued, Maria began collecting other British idioms and slang. It's raining cats and dogs, raining heavily. I'm knackered, very tired. That's pants. That's rubbish bad. Fancy a cuppa? Would you like a cup of tea? She realized these phrases often had historical or cultural origins that couldn't be directly translated. For example, chuffed to bits is thought to come from the sound of a steam train when it's running well. By learning these phrases in context and understanding their cultural background, Maria not only improved her English, but also gained insight into British culture and history. She found she could participate more fully in conversations, and even use some of these phrases herself, much to the delight of her British friends. Strategies for enhancing cultural understanding. 1. Cultural immersion. If possible, spend time in an English-speaking country. If not, create an English environment at home with books, TV shows, music, and food from English-speaking cultures. 2. Cultural informants. Make friends with native English speakers or advanced learners who can explain cultural nuances to you. 3. Historical context. Learn about the history of English-speaking countries. Many idioms and expressions have historical origins. Cross-cultural comparisons. Instead of translating, try to find similar concepts in your own culture and compare them. This can help you understand cultural differences and similarities. English language media. Regularly consume news, entertainment, and social media from English-speaking countries to stay current with cultural trends and references. Challenge yourself. The Cultural Detective. For 1 month, be a cultural detective. Every day, find one English word, phrase, or concept that seems to have a deep cultural meaning. Research its origins and usage without translating it to your language. Try to understand it purely in its English cultural context. Keep a journal of your findings, writing everything in English. At the end of the month, you'll have a fascinating record of cultural insights that go far beyond simple vocabulary. 8. Reduced interference from native language. Avoiding translation helps prevent common mistakes caused by differences between languages. Real-life example. Isabella's grammar breakthrough. Isabella, an Italian speaker, often made mistakes with English word order. In Italian, you can say, I yesterday went to the store. Io ieri sono andata al negozio. But this order is incorrect in English. When Isabella stopped translating and started thinking directly in English, she began to notice the correct patterns more easily. She listened to how native speakers formed sentences and practiced imitating them without thinking about Italian structure. Over time, Isabella's sentences became more natural and correct. She no longer had to consciously think about the differences between Italian and English grammar, which made her speaking and writing much more fluent. Understanding language interference. Language interference occurs when the rules or patterns of one language influence the use of another language. This can lead to errors in grammar, vocabulary usage, pronunciation, and even cultural understanding. By reducing reliance on your native language, you can minimize these interferences and speak more natural, accurate English. Practical exercise. The Monolingual Explanation Challenge 1. Choose 10 words that are difficult to translate directly from your language to English. 2. Without using your native language or a translation, try to explain each word in simple English. 3. Use examples, synonyms, or descriptions to convey the meaning. 4. Ask a native English speaker or advanced learner to guess the word based on your explanation. 5. Reflect on how this process helps you think directly in English. Expert Insight, Dr. Vivian Cook, Professor Emeritus of Applied Linguistics at Newcastle University, explains. While it's natural for learners to rely on their first language initially, developing the ability to think directly in the target language is crucial for advanced proficiency. It's not about forgetting your first language, but about creating a new independent system for English in your mind. Another example, Pavel's preposition predicament. Pavel, a Russian speaker, constantly struggled with English prepositions. In Russian, prepositions work differently, and Pavel found himself always trying to translate directly, leading to errors like, "I'm going on the cinema," instead of, "I'm going to the cinema." Frustrated with his mistakes, Pavel decided to stop thinking about Russian prepositions entirely when speaking English. Instead, he started noticing prepositional phrases as whole units. He created a preposition diary where he noted down phrases he heard or read, looking forward to, interested in, afraid of, good at. Instead of analyzing why these prepositions were used, Pavel simply memorized and practiced the whole phrases. He created example sentences and used them in conversations as much as possible. After a few months of this practice, Pavel noticed a significant improvement. He was using prepositions correctly more often, and his speech sounded more natural. Moreover, he found he was thinking of these phrases directly in English, without the mental step of translating from Russian. Strategies for reducing native language interference. 1. Chunk learning. Instead of learning individual words, focus on learning phrases or chunks of language. This helps you internalize English patterns rather than translating word for word. 2. English-only dictionary. Use a monolingual English dictionary instead of a bilingual one. This forces you to think in English and understand words through context and examples. 3. Direct association. When learning new vocabulary, try to associate the English word directly with the concept or image, bypassing your native language. 4th. Immersive reading. Read English texts without looking up every unknown word. Try to guess meanings from context, which helps you think more like a native English speaker. 5. Shadow listening. Listen to English audio and repeat what you hear immediately, mimicking the speaker's intonation and rhythm. This helps you internalize English patterns without interference from your native language. Challenge yourself. The English-only week. Commit to using only English for 1 week. This means thinking in English as much as possible, using only English resources, dictionary, websites, etc., keeping a journal in English, watching movies and TV shows in English without subtitles, Speaking to yourself in English. If you encounter a concept you can't express in English, challenge yourself to explain it using the English vocabulary you already know, rather than reverting to your native language. 9. Increased confidence in English usage. When you learn without translation, you build confidence in your ability to use English independently. Real-life example. Yuki's presentation. Success. Yuki, a Japanese student, was nervous about giving a presentation in English. She used to write her speeches in Japanese and then translate them, which made her delivery sound unnatural and hesitant. For this presentation, Yuki decided to prepare directly in English. She brainstormed ideas in English, created an outline in English, and practiced delivering her speech without any Japanese notes. At first, it was challenging, and Yuki felt like her ideas weren't as sophisticated as they would be in Japanese. However, as she practiced, she found she could express her thoughts more clearly and naturally in English. On the day of the presentation, Yuki felt more confident than ever before. She delivered her speech smoothly, maintained eye contact with her audience, and even handled questions with ease. Her professor commended her on her natural delivery and clear explanations. This experience boosted Yuki's confidence enormously. She realized that thinking directly in English allowed her to communicate more effectively and feel more comfortable using the language. The confidence factor in language learning. Confidence plays a crucial role in language acquisition and use. When you're confident, 1. You're more likely to engage in conversations, providing more practice opportunities. 2. You speak more fluently, as you're less hesitant and self-conscious. 3. You're more willing to take risks and try new phrases or expressions. 4. You enjoy using the language more, which motivates further learning. Practical exercise. The Confidence Building Journal. 1. Start a daily journal in English. Write about your experiences, thoughts, and feelings. 2. Begin each entry with, "Today I feel confident about," and list at least one aspect of your English skills. 3. If you faced any language challenges during the day, write about how you overcame them. 4. At the end of each week, review your entries and reflect on your progress. 5. Celebrate your improvements, no matter how small they seem. Dr. Zoltan Durnyai, professor of psycholinguistics at the University of Nottingham, advises, "Confidence in language learning is like a muscle. It grows with exercise. Create small, achievable goals for yourself and celebrate when you reach them. Each success, no matter how minor, contributes to building your overall confidence in using the language." Another example, Ahmed's customer service triumph. Ahmed, an Arabic speaker working in a multinational company, was hesitant to take on customer service roles that required English communication. He worried about making mistakes or not understanding customers' inquiries. Determined to overcome this fear, Ahmed started preparing for customer interactions entirely in English. He 1. Wrote down common customer queries in English. 2. Practiced responses out loud, focusing on clear pronunciation. 3. Role-played various scenarios with English-speaking colleagues. 4. Recorded himself speaking and listened back to identify areas for improvement. Initially, Ahmed felt uncomfortable and made mistakes. However, he persisted, reminding himself that making errors was part of the learning process. After a month of consistent practice, Ahmed volunteered to handle some customer calls. To his surprise, he found he could understand most inquiries and respond appropriately. When he encountered unfamiliar terms, he was able to ask for clarification confidently. Ahmed's success in these interactions dramatically boosted his confidence. He began to enjoy speaking English at work and even started engaging in casual conversations with his international colleagues during lunch breaks. Strategies for building confidence in English. 1. Set realistic goals. Start with small, achievable objectives. As you meet these goals, your confidence will grow, encouraging you to take on bigger challenges. 2. Positive self-talk. Replace negative thoughts, "I can't do this," with positive affirmations, "I'm improving every day." 3. Embrace mistakes. View errors as learning opportunities rather than failures. Every mistake is a step towards improvement. 4. Seek supportive environments. Engage with language exchange partners or join English conversation groups where you feel comfortable practicing. 5. Celebrate progress. Acknowledge your improvements no matter how small. Keep track of new words learned, successful conversations, or any other signs of progress. 6th, visualization. Before important English interactions, visualize yourself communicating successfully. This mental rehearsal can boost your confidence in real situations. Gradual exposure. Start with less challenging situations, like ordering food, and gradually work up to more complex interactions, like debates or presentations. Challenge yourself. The Confident Speaker's Video Diary. For 1 month, record a short video of yourself speaking English every day. Choose a different topic each day and speak for 2 to 3 minutes without scripting or preparing. Watch your videos back and note your improvements in fluency, vocabulary, and confidence over time. By the end of the month, compare your first and last videos. You'll likely see a significant boost in your confidence and speaking ability. 10th, deeper language intuition. Learning without translation helps you develop a feel for the language, similar to how native speakers intuitively know what sounds right. Real-life example, Carlos's writing. Intuition. Carlos, a Spanish speaker, used to rely heavily on translating his thoughts from Spanish to English when writing. His essays often contained awkward phrasing and didn't flow naturally. Carlos decided to improve his writing by reading extensively in English and writing daily without using any Spanish resources. At first, it was challenging, and his writing felt simplistic. However, as he continued, he began to develop an intuition for English expression. After a few months, Carlos noticed a significant change. When writing, he could feel when a sentence sounded right or wrong, even if he couldn't always explain the grammatical rules behind it. His professors commented on the improved flow and naturalness of his essays. This newfound intuition not only improved Carlos's writing, but also boosted his confidence in speaking and listening. He found himself understanding native speakers more easily and expressing his thoughts more naturally in conversations. Understanding language intuition. Language intuition, or Sprachgefühl in German, refers to an instinctive sense of what is linguistically appropriate. It's the ability to use language correctly without consciously thinking about rules. Native speakers have this intuition, but it can also be developed by language learners through immersion and practice. Practical exercise. The intuition building story chain. 1. Form a group with other English learners or native speakers. 2. The first person starts a story with 1 sentence. 3. Each subsequent person adds a sentence, focusing on what feels right rather than consciously applying grammar rules. 4. If something doesn't sound right, discuss why and try to rephrase it. 5. Continue until you've created a short story together. 6. Reflect on the process and discuss any intuitive decisions you made about language use. Expert Insight. Dr. Diane Larson Freeman, Professor Emerita of Education and Linguistics at the University of Michigan, explains, language intuition develops through extensive exposure and use. It's not about memorizing rules, but about internalizing patterns through meaningful engagement with the language. This intuition allows learners to produce language that sounds right, even when they can't articulate the underlying rules. Another example, Mia's collocational competence. Mia, an Italian learner of English, often struggled with word combinations. She would say things like, make homework, instead of do homework, because she was translating directly from Italian, fare I compiti. Frustrated with these persistent errors, Mia decided to focus on developing her intuition for English collocations, words that often go together. She, 1. Started noticing and noting down word pairs in her reading and listening. 2. Used a collocation dictionary to check her writing. 3. Played word association games in English. 4. Practiced using new collocations in her daily English journal. Over time, Mia found she was developing a feel for which words naturally go together in English. She could often tell when a combination sounded off, even if she couldn't explain why. This intuition helped Mia in unexpected ways. She found she could understand idiomatic expressions more easily, write more naturally, and even pick up on subtle humor in English TV shows. Strategies for developing language intuition. 1. Extensive reading. Read a wide variety of English texts. The more you expose yourself to natural English, the more you'll internalize its patterns. 2. Listening. Immersion. Listen to English podcasts, audiobooks, or radio shows. Pay attention to the natural rhythm and flow of the language. 3. Pattern recognition. Instead of memorizing grammar rules, try to notice patterns in how English is used in different contexts. 4th, language play. Engage in wordplay, puns, and other forms of language play. This helps you understand the flexibility and nuances of English. 5. Trust your gut. When speaking or writing, go with what feels right sometimes instead of always checking rules. Reflect on why you made certain choices. 6. Paraphrasing. Try expressing the same idea in multiple ways. This helps you develop flexibility and intuition about different English structures. 7. Corpus analysis. Use language corpora, large collections of texts, to see how words are used in authentic contexts. Challenge yourself. The intuition-based editing task. Find an English text written by a non-native speaker. You can use language learning forums or blogs. Edit the text based purely on what you feel sounds natural without consulting any grammar resources. Then, compare your edits with those of a native speaker. Discuss the changes you both made and why. This exercise helps you gauge and develop your language intuition. 11th. Enhanced global communication skills. Learning English without translation not only improves your language skills, but also enhances your ability to communicate effectively in a global context. Real-life example. Aisha's international business success. Aisha, an entrepreneur from Egypt, wanted to expand her business internationally. Although she had studied English for years, she often struggled in international meetings because she was constantly translating in her head. Determined to improve, Aisha immersed herself in English business content. She watched English language business news, read international business publications, and participated in English language webinars about her industry. Instead of trying to translate business terms, she learned them directly in English, understanding them in their original context. After several months, Aisha noticed a significant improvement in her ability to communicate in international settings. She could express her ideas more clearly and confidently, understand different accents more easily, and even pick up on subtle cultural nuances in business discussions. This newfound communication skill helped Aisha secure several international partnerships, significantly growing her business. The importance of global communication skills. In our interconnected world, the ability to communicate effectively across cultural and linguistic boundaries is increasingly valuable. Enhanced global communication skills. 1. Open up international career opportunities. 2. Facilitate cross-cultural understanding and cooperation. 3. Enable participation in global discussions and debates. 4. Enhance problem-solving abilities in diverse teams. 5. Increase adaptability in various cultural contexts. Practical exercise. The International Perspective Challenge. 1. Choose a current global issue, e.g., climate change, technological innovation, public health. 2. Research this issue using English language sources from at least 3 different countries. 3. Write a short report in English, summarizing the different perspectives you found. 4. Present your findings to a group of English learners or native speakers, encouraging discussion. 5. Reflect on how this process enhanced your global communication skills. Expert tip. Dr. Fons Trompenaars, a renowned cross-cultural communication expert, advises, effective global communication goes beyond language fluency. It requires an understanding of cultural context and the ability to adapt your communication style. By learning English without translation, you're not just learning words, but absorbing cultural perspectives that will serve you well in international settings. Another example, Hiroshi's virtual team leadership. Hiroshi, a Japanese IT professional, was promoted to lead a virtual team with members from India, Brazil, and Germany. While all team members spoke English, Hiroshi initially struggled to manage effectively due to language and cultural barriers. Realizing he needed to improve his global communication skills, Hiroshi took several steps. 1. He started watching English language TV shows from different countries to get used to various accents and cultural references. 2. He joined an international online gaming community, practicing real-time communication in English. 3. He read books on cross-cultural management in English, learning concepts directly without Japanese translation. 4. He practiced active listening techniques in English, focusing on understanding his team members' perspectives. Over time, Hiroshi's communication skills improved dramatically. He became adept at facilitating discussions, resolving conflicts, and motivating his diverse team. His improved English skills, combined with a deeper understanding of cross-cultural communication, made him a highly effective global leader. Strategies for enhancing global communication skills. 1. Diverse media consumption. Regularly consume English language media from various countries to expose yourself to different accents, idioms, and cultural perspectives. 2. Virtual language exchange. Use language exchange apps to practice English with people from different countries. This helps you get used to various accents and communication styles. Third, intercultural sensitivity training. Take online courses or workshops on intercultural communication, focusing on understanding different cultural norms and values. 4. Global current events. Stay informed about global issues by reading international news sources in English. This helps you develop a more nuanced understanding of world events and improves your ability to discuss complex topics in English. 5. Professional networking. Join international professional networks or online communities in your field. Engage in discussions to practice using English in a professional context. 6. Nonverbal communication awareness. Learn about nonverbal communication norms in different cultures. This can be just as important as verbal skills in global communication. 7. Presentation skills. Practice giving presentations in English on topics related to your field or interests. This helps you articulate complex ideas clearly in a global language. Challenge yourself. The Global Podcast Project. Create a short podcast series, 3 to 5 episodes, in English about a topic you're passionate about. For each episode, interview someone from a different country or cultural background in English. Focus on adapting your communication style to different guests, asking culturally sensitive and relevant questions, summarizing diverse viewpoints for your audience. This project will enhance your global communication skills by requiring you to interact with people from various backgrounds, articulate complex ideas clearly, and present information to a diverse audience. 12. Cognitive flexibility and creativity. Learning English without translation enhances your cognitive flexibility and can boost creativity by encouraging you to think in new patterns. Real-life example: Sophia's creative writing breakthrough. Sophia, a Portuguese novelist, always dreamed of writing a book in English. However, when she tried to write by translating her ideas from Portuguese, her prose felt stilted and unnatural. Determined to improve, Sophia decided to immerse herself in English literature and start a daily writing practice directly in English, without using Portuguese as a crutch. At first, Sophia felt like her English writing was simplistic compared to her Portuguese work. However, as she persisted, she noticed something interesting happening. The limitations of her English vocabulary forced her to find creative ways to express her ideas. She started using metaphors and descriptions that she never would have thought of in Portuguese. After several months, Sophia found that writing in English had not only improved her language skills but had also enhanced her creativity. She was thinking about stories and characters in new ways. When she returned to writing in Portuguese, she found that this newfound creativity carried over, enriching her work in both languages. Understanding cognitive flexibility and creativity in language learning. Cognitive flexibility refers to the brain's ability to switch between different concepts or to think about multiple concepts simultaneously. Learning a new language, especially without relying on translation, enhances cognitive flexibility by requiring the brain to form new neural pathways and think in different patterns. This process can boost creativity in several ways. 1. It encourages novel problem-solving approaches. 2. It enhances the ability to see things from multiple perspectives. 3. It promotes divergent thinking, the ability to generate multiple ideas or solutions for. It improves adaptability in communication and expression. Practical exercise. The Bilingual Brainstorming Challenge. 1. Choose a problem or creative task, e.g., design a new product, write a short story. 2. Spend 10 minutes brainstorming ideas in your native language. 3. Take a short break, then spend 10 minutes brainstorming in English without translating your previous ideas. 4. Compare the two sets of ideas. Notice any differences in approach or creativity. 5. Reflect on how thinking in English might have led to new or different ideas. Expert Insight. Dr. Ellen Bialystok, Distinguished Research Professor of Psychology at York University, explains, bilinguals often demonstrate enhanced cognitive flexibility and creativity. The experience of managing two languages strengthens the brain's executive function, which is responsible for skills like problem solving, switching between tasks, and thinking creatively. Learning English without translation can further enhance these benefits by encouraging more direct and flexible thinking in the new language. Another example. Ravi's innovative problem solving. Ravi, an Indian engineer working for a multinational company, was known for his solid but conventional problem-solving skills. However, when he was transferred to the company's UK office and began working primarily in English, his colleagues noticed a change. As Ravi became more comfortable thinking and expressing ideas directly in English, without translating from Hindi, his approach to problems became more innovative. He started 1. Using analogies from diverse fields to explain technical concepts. 2. Proposing unconventional solutions that he struggled to express in Hindi. 3. Combining ideas from different cultural contexts to create unique approaches. Ravi's manager noticed this shift and gave him more challenging creative projects. Ravi found that switching between Hindi and English, depending on the problem at hand, allowed him to leverage different thinking patterns and come up with more diverse solutions. Strategies for enhancing cognitive flexibility and creativity through language learning. 1. Word association games. Play word association games in English. This encourages quick, creative thinking in your new language. 2. Bilingual journaling. Keep a journal where you alternate between English and your native language. Compare your thought processes and expressions in each. 3. Concept mapping. Create concept maps for complex ideas in English. This visual technique can reveal new connections and perspectives. 4. Role-playing. Engage in role-playing exercises in English, taking on different personas. This can enhance your ability to see situations from multiple viewpoints. 5. Metaphor creation. Practice creating metaphors in English for abstract concepts. This exercises your creative thinking in the new language. 6. Cross-linguistic problem solving. Try solving logic puzzles or brain teasers in English. Notice if your approach differs from when you solve similar problems in your native language. 7. Bilingual brainstorming. When faced with a problem, brainstorm solutions in both your native language and English. Compare the results to see how language influences your thinking. Challenge yourself. The Creativity Boost Project. For 1 month, commit to a daily creativity exercise in English. Each day, spend 15 minutes on a different creative task, such as writing a 6-word story, sketching an object and describing it in detail, creating a new idiom and explaining its meaning, inventing a solution to an everyday problem, writing a haiku about your current mood. Keep all your work in an English creativity journal. At the end of the month, review your journal and reflect on how thinking and creating directly in English has influenced your creative process and cognitive flexibility. Conclusion: embracing a new way of language. Learning English without translation is a journey that goes beyond mere language acquisition. It's a path to developing a new way of thinking, enhancing your cognitive abilities, and opening up a world of opportunities for personal and professional growth. As we've explored in this guide, this approach offers numerous benefits: improved thinking in English, better understanding of context, faster language processing, more authentic language use, enhanced memory retention, improved pronunciation, deeper cultural understanding, reduced interference from native language, increased confidence in English usage, deeper language intuition, enhanced global communication skills, increased cognitive flexibility and creativity. Remember, the journey of learning English without translation is not always easy. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to step out of your comfort zone. There will be moments of frustration, but these are often followed by breakthroughs that make the effort worthwhile. As you continue on this path, keep these key principles in mind. Immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. Focus on progress, not perfection. Engage with English in ways that align with your interests and goals. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your achievements, no matter how small. Learning English without translation is not just about becoming fluent in a new language. It's about expanding your mind, enhancing your cognitive abilities, and gaining a new lens through which to view the world. It's a challenging journey, but one that offers rich rewards in terms of personal growth, professional opportunities, and cultural understanding. So, take that first step. Challenge yourself to think, dream, and create in English. Embrace the discomfort, celebrate the breakthroughs, and enjoy the journey of becoming not just a speaker of English, but a thinker in English. Remember, every great journey begins with a single step. Your journey to thinking in English starts now. Embrace it, enjoy it, and watch as it transforms not just your language skills, but your entire perspective on the world. Good luck and happy learning.